I'll take you back to the days of 1999, when most of us would have been aware that the Indian Army was winning the victories at Kargil. We had beaten back the intruders,
Yeah.
the so-called tribals, actually the Pakistani regulars,
Yeah.
and the momentum was with the Indian Army, and they were taking back the peaks which they had been occupied earlier by the intruders. And so
Yeah.
that is the backdrop. Entire Western Front, if I may put it that way,
Yeah.
ready to go if required.
There was a fair chance of an all-out war.
Absolutely. And I think the chance only reduced a bit when the momentum turned in our favor. Otherwise, we were ready to go ourselves anywhere across the entire Western Front. Maybe. So that is the backdrop. The momentum is with us. And at Kargil, here everything is more or less what was happening was increased firing all along the line of control. And so was it in our sector also. Increased firing and all that. Only direct firing weapons like machine guns and similar weapons were being used, and not high trajectory weapons like we call mortars, and definitely not artillery. Where in other sectors, artillery was commonplace, mortars were the almost daily affair. In our case, mortars were the exception. Direct fire was the standard. One day, the brigade commander decided to see both his mortar platoons, which were located in this sector, in action. He gave my battalion mortars a target, and the neighboring battalion commanders, because as you know, mortar is an area weapon and it's got a slightly longer range and all that than direct firing weapons like machine guns and all. Right. So he wanted the neighboring battalions mortars to engage another target of the enemy. And for that purpose, he had come down to one of my company viewpoints. Which enabled him to have a grandstand view of the entire target area, including my mortar's target area and the neighboring, the sister battalion, neighboring battalions' target.
Right.
So, and as luck would have it, I had gone to another vantage point to see another perspective of my mortar's firing.
Right.
And the mortar fire started. And I'm happy to say that we achieved what we were trying to do. In fact, I have a distinct memory, like a mental snapshot of the enemy post going up in flames. They must have, by chance, caught maybe their storage of kerosene or something.
Right.
After some time, as is usual, the enemy reciprocated. They started returning the fire.
With mortars.
With mortars. That's what. I mean, up till now, like I said, before the Kargil operation, it has to be only direct firing weapons.
Direct firing.
But then as Kargil went on, the intensity went on, the mortars also became quite common.
Right.
That day we opened the mortars of 2 platoons, different targets. And after some time, the brigade commander told it, yeah, fine, that's it. We close for the day, that is stop our firing. And he asked me to fall back to the company viewpoint where he was sort of witnessing the action.
Right.
So at that place, it was 3 or 4 senior officers were there. The brigade commander himself, the artillery brigade commander, artillery regimental commander, not battalion brigade commander, and my neighboring battalion CO. So 3 of them senior to me and myself. And at that point, because when our firing was going on, he was watching from the viewpoint. And as soon as the Pakistanis, the enemy, opened up, we took shelter in the bunker directly beneath the viewpoint. So the bunker was absolutely safe. So all of us were moving into the bunker. And as is typical, after some time, the mortar fire stopped. And the brigade commander said, okay, I would like to leave for my headquarters. So as he mentioned that, the brigade commander's vehicle, Gypsy, was driven up to the top of the vantage point, from where he could just walk into the vehicle
Right.
without having. So as the vehicle was being driven up, that is just the time they resumed the mortar.
Yeah.
And their fire was accurate.
Right.
So again, because the fire was accurate, we again took shelter in the bunker.
Right.
The only thing was that the gypsy which had driven up to the top of the vantage point,
Yeah.
now again he had to shelter because the vantage point was being peppered by the enemy mortar shells.
Correct.
So the driver and the signal operator, who happened to be not a signals boy but a infantry signaller,
Yeah.
they jumped into the vehicle and were driving down very fast from the vantage point. Because as the vantage point would be at a height, they were driving down very quickly.
Yeah.
Just then, they heard the peculiar whistling noise of a mortar shell landing very close. They knew it was going to land very close.
Yeah.
So they immediately stopped the vehicle and sort of dived out.
Okay.
And it is just providential, God's grace, how they did not have a scratch.
Right.
But the gypsy was totally written off. The
Oh.
engine block was sort of gone beyond repair. It was written off totally.
Oh.
So, but luckily they were safe. So there was no problem.
Yeah, a complete providence.
The complete providence. And they had heard the noise of the mortar shell seemingly about to come and land very close to them. And it did land very close to them. In fact, it landed in front of the gypsy, which was moving downhill at speed. And just a split second or two earlier, they would have
So the
decided to
gypsy
jump
actually
out.
took the most of the brunt.
Totally. The gypsy was a write-off. And that's it. So at that time, I told you we had gone again into the shelter of the bunker.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And again, after 2 minutes, the firing stopped.
Yeah.
We came up into the into the vantage point again, overview.
Mm.
And now we are waiting to what to do. Okay, as a host battalion commander, it is my duty to provide my vehicle to the brigade commander to get back to his headquarters because his vehicle is a write-off.
Correct.
So while that vehicle is being driven up, we are now sitting in the viewpoint. So while we are sitting there, like I said, there were 4 seniors there, 3 senior officers senior to me. So, and the viewpoint is not terribly big, so we had just 3 chairs there.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the senior most brigade commander occupying 1 chair, the artillery brigade commander, artillery regimental commander occupying the 2nd chair, and I sat in the 3rd chair. But as I said, the neighboring battalion commander was my senior, and he was still briefing his troops in the bunker below.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment he put in an appearance, as per courtesy, as per army, expectations,
Oh, yeah.
I got up, vacated my chair, and said, "Sir, please have a seat."
Mm.
And I parked myself on a hollow block, that is a cement hollow block, and I was resting my bottom on the hollow block. Within 15 seconds, the fire resumed again.
Okay.
It was pinpoint accurate, and the vantage point was under a very prominent banyan tree.
Okay.
And the mortar shell exploded. It exploded in the branches above our head. It became something like an airburst.
Oh.
And mortars do not have airburst, but it happened to be like an
It
airburst.
happened that way. Yeah.
Because it exploded in the among the branches of the
Banyan tree.
banyan tree.
Yeah.
And some of the splinters rained down, came
Oh my God.
vertically downwards. And vertically downwards is exactly where we were sitting.
Okay.
And exactly where we were sitting, the chair which was occupying maybe 15 seconds ago, my senior is now occupying the chair. He receives a splinter and it enters from his right shoulder blade or shoulder, and he is now on the floor because he's bleeding and obviously he is in pain.
Yeah.
So what do? We immediately rush him to the bunker below. So at
Right.
this time, when the neighboring battalion commander got injured, the phone was in the viewpoint and not in the bunker.
Oh.
So now it is my duty as the host, so to speak,
Correct.
to organize the evacuation of my senior colleague.
Correct.
And when the fire dies down, again, then move the brigade commander to his headquarters. I mean, my vehicle is already detailed for that.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally now everybody is sheltering there. And we are now evacuated moved our
Yeah.
wounded colleague down to the bunker. But how do I tell everybody? How do I tell my medical officer? How do I tell my second in command that this is what has happened? Please convey to the higher headquarters
Yeah.
if we can get a helicopter to evacuate him or what.
Yeah.
Where is the phone? The phone is in the viewpoint.
Acha.
And the phone is in the viewpoint, and the viewpoint has just been subject to splintered effect of.
Yeah.
So there is nothing to do about it, but just go where the fire is. Could happen again. One more round can come that way,
Yeah.
but I have to take that chance because now for me the one thing is to help evacuate my wounded colleague.
Wounded.
For that, communication is necessary.
Yeah.
Get the doctors ready, maybe even MH Akhnoor ready, and all that.
Yeah.
So I steeled myself to go up into the viewpoint. Now the viewpoint is already, as you heard, been targeted very accurately.
Yeah.
So I am gulping down my fear. I am trying to do whatever, and I rang up my battalion commander. And you know the old telephone that you have to ring so that the magneto gets a signal, and then it reached the battalion 2IC. I told him all that I transpired, and he says not to worry, sir. I'll get on to the telephone. And then I was rest assured that now the evacuation is going to take place. The only thing we have to wait for another maybe 2, 5, 10 minutes for the mortar shelling to die down. But small queries will crop up. Sir, where is he hurt? Sir, what has happened? You know, all that.
Naturally.
So I'm still stuck in the viewpoint. And now in the viewpoint, there is no protection other than that tin, which has been actually no protection.
Yeah.
But there is a table on which the telephone had been placed, which is a steel table IT, as we call it.
That steel table. It's a very strong one. Sturdy, very sturdy.
It's a strong ring. And to my frightened eyes, at that time I was very frightened. Let me be very candid. I was petrified that the next target is going to be myself.
Correct.
And I tried to crawl in under the steel table. At least one person can sit comfortably. And it gave me the, if nothing else, the mental satisfaction that I've got another layer of some metal over my head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it proves effective or not,
Yeah.
is decided upon. That can be tested later. But right now I've got one layer over my head while I'm on the telephone.
Right.
To my intense annoyance, I find at that time, as this tempers are rising high and all that, the company Havaldar Major of that company crawls into the bunker, into the viewpoint. I said, Sarvan, what are you doing here? Get out, go into the bunker. And these words of mine I'll carry with me till the last end of my days. साहब जब आप यहाँ बैठे हैं मैं आपको अकेला नहीं छोड़ सकता. Seriously, these are the words he said.
Absolutely.
How can I explain to him that I am sheltering under this? You and I both can't because it just has got enough space.
Yeah.
So just go away, let me shelter. I have to do what I have to do, phone, vagara, and organize the evacuation in a proper manner. Yeah, leave. But after having heard him say that, he said, I can't leave you alone. I said, okay, sit. Whatever happens, happens. And actually, this all has a very happy ending in the sense that my colleague who had got injured was evacuated successfully. He was taken to R&R Hospital, Delhi, as quickly as possible. And there, he was stabilized and everything became fine. Now, you can imagine the nature of the injury. The splinter coming vertically downwards, hitting him in the right side of the shoulder, where between the neck and the shoulder. And beneath this are our vital organs like lungs. And if the splinter deviates, maybe the heart. You just don't know what could have happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
He could have, God forbid, bled out. But we had taken that much first aid immediately to take care of that. He will not bleed out. But you never know. And he was evacuated. And it is my distinct happiness to tell you that he retired as a lieutenant. As you said, the takeaways from this is drive on the line of control, even in a no war, no peace situation, is very, very dangerous.
Unpredictable.
And we take it in a stride. That is the next one. That is
so thank you very much, Colonel Sharma. This was really very, very interesting. And I'm sure our viewers are going to really enjoy this anecdote from you.
I hope so. I hope so.
Thank you very much.